Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Dylan Silver, and today on the show we have Dion McNeeley. Dion is going to be the keynote speaker for BPCon, the Bigger Pockets Conference, and he's known as the Lazy Investor. Dion, welcome to the show.
Howdy. Thanks for having me here. I'm excited to share some information with people that might make their financial future better.
Absolutely. Man, at the top of the show, I always like to ask folks about how they got into the real estate space. I know how I got in, but I think no two stories are alike.
So I don't scare people away. I like to put the ending before the beginning.
Okay.
I invested for 12 years and retired in 2022 with a couple $100,000 in passive income from a small real estate portfolio that I'm learning how to spend. So the ending was good. The beginning wasn't so good. I made it to 40 pretty much without ever having $1,000 in the bank. I got laid off from law enforcement because of the 2008 recession, right? You know, municipalities don't have taxes coming in, so they can't staff their departments. I found myself as a single parent with 3 kids. I found out about $89,000 in bad debt in my name I didn't know existed until the divorce. And I started teaching at a CDL school making $17 an hour. So I was in a pretty bad position. I had tried for a pension twice. Right? I tried the Marine Corps. They downsized after Desert Storm. I tried law enforcement. They downsized after 2008. So at 40, I decided to make my own pension and start buying rentals. And the way I did it was very slow, what I call lazy. It's not sexy. I didn't do the Burr method. I didn't do any wholesaling or flipping. No creative financing. All my properties are from the MLS with conventional loans. Started really slow. Saved for 2 years. Had a bad debt to income ratio, so I couldn't buy a property. I had $89,000 in bad debt and low income. But luckily, a lender told me, just kind of like casually in a conversation, the only way you'd ever really be able to buy a rental is if you had rental income on your tax returns. And that sent me down the rabbit hole of why would that matter? So I moved from my house into an apartment and rented the house out for 2 years. So for 2 years, we downsized life. And at the 2-year point, after saving for 2 years, working in a new industry and working on my credit score, I saved up a whopping $28,000. And I put 5% down on a duplex and started house hacking. I moved into one side and rented out the other. And it took another 2 years before I got another property. So in the first 4 years, I acquired 2 whole properties. And then it got a little bit faster because of the house being rented out, my living expenses going from, I was paying $1,500 a month in the apartment. When I moved into the duplex, I was only paying $300 a month. Tenant covered almost the whole mortgage. So I was saving a lot more to invest. And then I acquired a 4-plex and a triplex, and I retired in 2022. I'm just transparent with my numbers. My portfolio is small enough to just share this stuff. I have 8 properties with 18 rentals. I'm house hacking a duplex now on the water in the Puget Sound in the Pacific Northwest. That's how I'm retiring this way. My rental income is about $35,000 a month. I have $9,000 a month in mortgages. I set aside a little over $5,000 a month for future expenses, repairs, maintenance, vacancy. So that's about 60 grand a year. And that leaves me about $21,000 a month that I'm learning how to spend because it took a decade to do this. And I've learned to live really frugally. I spend somewhere around $4,000 a month. And it was when my cash flow passed $16,000 a month that I felt kind of silly going to work. I really liked the job. I liked teaching how to drive trucks. I got demoted all the way down to president of the company and I really enjoyed it. But eventually, time freedom won out and I retired in 2022. And now I just basically travel. I chase good scuba and good weather. So I've spent months in Colombia and Thailand, and I just got back from Portugal, headed to Scotland for the summer, and then I'll go back to Thailand for the winter. And I don't think I can say with words how cool it is to reach financial freedom and walk away from a job I actually liked, to realize there's this thing I call the math of time. And it's how I tripled the amount of life in my years. And I'll just do it really quick. Let's compare the last year I worked to the first year I was retired. And this will work for almost anybody listening or watching.
Yeah.
When you work a 40-hour week, I was usually 50 or 60 hours a week, but if you work a 40-hour week, you have to commute to work. You have a lunch break at work. You still have to clean the house and do laundry and all of that. The average person, if they're lucky, gets about 5 hours a day that's theirs. 5 hours a day where we're wiped out, and the most energy we have is to stare at a screen. So people go home and they game, or they go home and they watch Netflix. That's the year before I retired. If I was lucky, I got 5 hours a day that was mine. Most days I didn't get that. And then after I retired, I still have to clean the house, do laundry, work out, that kind of stuff. But I don't have 8+ hours a day working, an hour a day commuting, that hour of lunch locked at work. I have about 15 hours a day that's mine every day. And I haven't been exhausted in almost 3 years.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
I could sleep whenever I want. I wake up when I want, not when an alarm clock tells me to. It is much better for your health. And it's funny. I hear people say all the time, I don't know what I would do with my time if I didn't have a job. And that makes me really sad. People's jobs aren't filling their time. Their job is killing their time. And there's so much to do that once you get the job out of the way and you realize that if you can do anything you want and compensation isn't the key, like you're not pursuing work so you can make more money, there's volunteer work, there's a job you can do because you love it, there's traveling, there's actually spending time with your family. You might find out you'll like them. And so I recommend it to everybody. At least put in a decade so you can have the rest of your life for free.
I couldn't agree anymore. I hear that you love travel. I love travel. I got a passport about 2 years ago, and it totally changed my life. I've been to conferences. I've been all over the United States. But when I traveled alone by myself to a country where English was not spoken, that'll blow your mind like nothing else will possibly blow your mind. I mean, there's very few circumstances that I could say even come close, because the reason why I was there even was not like strictly tourism. It was let me go and educate myself on another like way of life, like another language, another culture, another food, right? Way people communicate. And when you see this, it changes the way you think about yourself and your people around you.
It really opens your eyes when you travel and you spend some time in other countries. You realize, depending on what part of the world you're from, that most people rarely travel a few hundred miles from where they live. And if they do, it's for a weekend or a week. But when you can go and fully immerse yourself, so I grew up in Southern California. I started working in the onion fields when I was 8 because my dad left and me and my mom would work in the onion fields. And I kind of thought I spoke Spanish. And then I went to Colombia and I realized I don't speak Spanish at all. That full immersion of a couple of months there. And yeah, if you're in like Cartagena or one of the bigger cities where there's a lot of tourism, most people speak English. But if you get out to Montesalas or Pereira and if you don't know how to communicate, you go out without a lot of stuff. And it really made me appreciate the differences of culture versus how much of the world are you going to experience if you spend 40 years of your life working more than 40 hours a week to finally retire when you're too old to go out and enjoy it and try to live on less than 40% of what you made.
Dion, what was the biggest takeaway that you had from your first time going to Colombia?
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency. It's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
So just before retiring, I went to Colombia took what you would call a mini retirement, like a month and a half, right? It wasn't a full 6 months or a year. It was like, okay, I'm going to take this time. I've been living off my cash flow for about 4 years. I can handle this. So I went there and I realized the most important thing if you have time freedom is to plan one thing for every day. So when I got to Colombia, the first week we did everything we found online. Right? Go to the salt mines, go to Cartagena, go to the hot springs that don't smell like sulfur, like do all these cultural things. And you have that week and it's done. Now you realize you have all this time left and you don't have a schedule and you don't have a plan. The most important takeaway, and this is what helps me in retirement, is have one thing that you're going to do every day. Sometimes it's nothing. Plan a day where you do nothing. But most days it's, I'm going to do this one thing tomorrow or one thing next Tuesday. And that made me really look at my job. And what I did is I built a life where work is in the way. I wanted to scuba dive when I feel like it. I wanted to paddleboard when I feel like it. I do defensive tactics training for law enforcement agencies because I still interact with some of the officers I used to work with. And I want to be able to do that when it fits their schedule, not when I actually have a little bit of time off. So planning one thing every day and getting that life where work is in the way. That the last year going to work, I felt silly because every day I thought, these are the things I could be doing today. But instead, I'm coming to a business for 8 to 10 hours to build someone else's dream.
Absolutely. I resonate with that very deeply because when I think about my own path into real estate, I was working for a car dealership. I'd been in car sales for about 5 years, and I was seeing that not all makes, but a lot of makes were trying to phase out car salespeople, and that this wasn't like maybe a long-term career or an opportunity for me to be making good money when it used to be. And there were so many factors that went into it, and I was also seeing real estate prices go up and up and up and up. And I was living in San Antonio, Texas, so it was a lot of like, if I can't beat them, join them type of thing too. But I didn't know how to get in. I had no clue. I didn't know people in the business. My family wasn't involved. When I was talking to, my friends who are doing the same job that I was doing, they're like, cash for keys, buy homes with no money down type of thing. Like that's not possible. And this idea of me like building out this rental portfolio on the income that I had seemed like a tall tale. So I say all that to say, I really attribute real estate to being a cornerstone for not just people who are already wealthy, but for people who want to have the type of time freedom that you talk about, Dion. Because whether you're law enforcement like you were, military, or whether you are doing car sales like I was, or how many teachers have I spoken with, right? My perspective is the more people that can be fluent in the language of real estate and the more people that can get involved as a real estate investor, actually we'll have better police officers, we'll have better teachers, we'll have, better people doing their job because they will want to be there for the job itself, not just because of the paycheck.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
When somebody asks me why I create YouTube content or why I go on podcasts or why I'm going to Bigger Pockets BPCon 2025 and speaking, it sounds really weird to say this as a Marine because you're not supposed to have feelings, right? But I think, imagine how much better the world would be if we get more people to financial freedom so that people have the jobs they want instead of the jobs they have to have for money. Like you said, imagine how many teachers you've met or police officers or truck drivers who are miserable because they don't want to do that job, but they need the paycheck. We call that the drug that kills your dreams, that paycheck every couple of weeks. But if you get more people to financial freedom, and then there are people who just love to teach or want to be a protector or want to do the job and are actually enjoying it. Yeah, you make the world a better place the more people that reach financial freedom. The problem is we're trained at a very young age not to do that. And this is right out of, probably one of Robert Kiyosaki's books, maybe not Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but one of the following ones, where in the early 1900s, late 1800s, the Fords and the Rockefellers said, we'll build the schools. That's why there's so many Ford centers and Ford middle schools and all across the country. But they said, as long as you structure it like a factory. I want it to go Monday to Friday. I want a bell to start the day. I want a bell to end the day, basically training us from the age of 5 when we go to kindergarten that my life is supposed to be designed around the way a factory works. And then in factories, we have a thing, most of us are kept held down by a glass ceiling. So a lot of times they'll say it's because of my gender or because of my education level or because of whatever, that I can only make so much per year. There is no limit to your income when you invest in assets that benefit from inflation, right? Most of my life, I made less than $50,000. The last couple of years at the CDL school, I started making a little bit more. But as a cop, as a truck driver, as a CDL instructor, my 60,000 would probably be my best year. In 2024, just did my taxes about a month ago, I had a little over $242,000 in profit. That's after all expenses, after citing repairs, maintenance, and vacancy, setting aside money and taxes, because I still haven't paid a penny in rental income tax. This is the system we work in. I never made that much working, and I couldn't. But I could buy a property every couple of years, and the trick isn't owning 8 properties with 18 rental units. The trick is owning one for a little over a decade, and the next one for 8 years, and the next one for 6 years, and having all of these years for this, the opportunity for rents to increase, the opportunity to refinance at better rates, for inflation to do its thing. And it's funny, it'd probably be too long for this podcast, and we could do it in a future one. I can prove that rents are the same they are today as they were in 1970, and I can prove that houses are cheaper today than they were in the year 2000. And when I say it like that, most people say, I don't believe you. It's not true. And when I lay out, I can whiteboard it or I can explain it to where people will sit back and go, oh, that makes total sense. It's easier and cheaper to buy a house today than it was in 2000. Rents are exactly the same as they were in 1970. People think things cost more. They don't understand that our currency is losing value. They print more of it. It takes more currency to buy the same thing. So rents haven't changed since 1970. And everybody that wants to buy a house now and says it's much harder, I bought a house in 2000 for about $100,000. This was one way before I was an investor. I was just going to have the kids and raise them there. Now the house is worth $400,000. So 25 years, it's quadrupled in value. People would say, well, the wages haven't quadrupled in value either, right? So most people would say it's more expensive now, right?
Yeah.
So when I bought it in 2000, it was a 45-minute drive to the closest grocery store. It was over an hour drive to the closest movie theater. There wasn't a Lowe's, a Home Depot, or a Walmart within hours of the place. So if you went to anywhere in your state right now and you looked up the houses that are at least 45 minutes from the closest grocery store, that are at least an hour or more from the closest Lowe's, Home Depot, or Walmart, houses are going to be about $100,000. They're in Washington State where the average house costs $700,000. Houses are unaffordable where people want to live. And
Yes.
now the biggest change that's happened since 2020, that's happened, I'm probably twice your age. So in at least half a century, I've never seen this. Remote work is more of an option now than it has ever been
Yep.
in our entire lives. So
Yep.
when you add the element of remote work to houses being more affordable, further out from the cities, you can actually find a place where rents to price ratios make sense. Now, it might not be close enough for you to property manage, but what are you willing to do to buy the properties that make you not have to go to work in the future? And that's usually what it comes down to. It's what are you willing to do? Are you willing to self-educate? Are you willing to invest at a distance? Are you willing to relocate? Are you willing to house hack? Most times when I bring up house hacking, people say they never would. I've house hacked 3 times. And that's probably the main reason my kids will inherit millions instead of inheriting me when I'm too old to work and take care of myself.
Dion, when in hearing your story, I think about my journey, and I didn't have, a family relying on me for a source of income, but I was relying on me, and I was saying, how am I gonna partake in this American dream? And when I started to get into real estate, it was like my inner circle, my nuclear family, my friends pretty much said what you're doing is totally crazy. Like you're giving up a good job where you're making enough money to live in like a luxury apartment in San Antonio and have a nice car to basically live on half of what you were making beforehand and with absolutely no certainty, and to be like an entrepreneur, like what are you doing? And that was 2 years ago today. And so we had different circumstances, but ultimately similar drive. I think in talking about what you mentioned with not being close to like a Home Depot, a Walmart, I completely see that point. And I'm living out here like an hour outside of Dallas on a ranch in an alternative dwelling unit, right? And when people see this, they say, well, I wouldn't be willing to do that. And to your point, like you have to be willing to sacrifice something. Like they're not just going to hand you the keys to a home in the middle of the city. That's not how it works. And the sacrifice comes at you have to live a little bit unconventionally, just a little bit unconventionally.
Yeah, and this is where podcasts, audiobooks, and YouTube University comes in. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Someone has done what we want to do, whether it's wholesaling, flipping, the Burr method, or buy and hold, the slow and boring way, the way that I did it. But if you get into communities, those local REI meetups, where you get into find the person who's done what you've wanted to do. There's a lot of content creators. There's one rental at a time, the lumberjack landlord, bigger pockets. I've got a friend, Millennial Mike, who's a law enforcement officer. He lives in a high cost of living area, but he invests in Gary, Indiana. And in about 4 years, he's built a portfolio of 27 rentals as just a law enforcement officer. It's almost like, so I want to point out, you and I are on opposite ends of a spectrum. I believe, based on the choices that you made, congratulations, being willing to take the risks and everything, you're an entrepreneur. I'm not. I've tried a couple of businesses in my life, both of them failed. And so I'm not an entrepreneur. What I am is an investor. My goal was to put money to work. It ended up being to where I could retire after 12 years of investing, but that wasn't my goal when I started. My goal when I was starting, a lot of people say they want to create generational wealth. And I mentioned it earlier, that wasn't my goal. My goal was, when I get so old that I can't work anymore, I don't want my kids to have to take care of me. Part of it is I don't want to become a financial burden. The other part is I saw how they were with pets. And I want the resources to hire a paid professional. I don't want my kids taking care of me. And so like an accidental byproduct is I created enough cash flow to make work optional. And some people, when work is optional, they might go do that job, scuba instructor or teacher or anything that they just love, they have passion about, to go do that. Me, I'm the lazy person. I just can't put into words how great life is, not having an alarm clock, not knowing what day of the week it is. I kind of
Yeah.
expected that. I've heard other investors say every day is Saturday. What I didn't expect is I often don't know what time of day it is. I play a lot of online games, World of Warcraft. It was actually a side hustle for a while where I played online, sold things in game to make more money to invest. And so I'll text my friends, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon is exactly the same to me. And it probably sucks for my friends that are still working because I never know what time it is.
Have you ever heard of like Caribbean time? Have you heard of this?
I've heard of Colombian time with my friends from Colombia that say, yeah, there's no exact time when things start. It's when we show up or when we're ready.
I haven't been to Colombia. It's on my to-do list. But frankly, when I was first starting to travel, the tickets to Colombia and back versus to the Caribbean back were just like twice as expensive. So I just started going to the Caribbean, and I've kind of been going back since then. But they don't have seasons in the Caribbean, right? It's always summer. So every day is the same. Now they might have a hurricane, right? But there's no season. So you can ask someone in the Caribbean, when did you start going to school? And they'll be like, well, I think it might have been, around March timeframe, but I don't really know. Well, was it summer? Well, I don't know. Well, what year was it? I'm pretty sure it was last year, And that's really how things are. And so I think about my life and I'm like, get me out of the freezing cold. I lived 6 years in Boston, right? I don't want to do that. Let me live somewhere where I can lose track of time a little bit. Please.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I chase the good weather with the good scuba, right? I live in the Pacific Northwest. We have a great summer, but the scuba here is not really good. The water's murky, not warm. And so I'll go to Colombia's kind of the same. It's almost always summer. It's on the equator, basically. Thailand has the best time to be in Thailand is November, December, January. Portugal and the Algarve, the southern, it's almost like Florida without hurricanes and alligators and a bunch of other stuff. So I chase the scuba, but I also chase the good weather. I like it in the Pacific Northwest, but I'm like you, I don't like the cold. And for a lot of my life, I was a truck driver or a police officer, so I had an outdoor job, and I was at the whim of, the weather. And now it's nice that I just can look at the whole globe and go pretty much wherever I want to go. A couple of years ago, I thought, I'm going to go spend 6 months in Russia, but that's put on hold for a while now. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Be very safe. Be very safe. Dion, where is the best place for scuba in the world?
So this is just my opinion. There are some people that will point out places in Australia that have better looking things, but for me, it's Thailand. And it's almost for the same reason that I live in the Pacific Northwest. So if you look at all of the US, there's hurricanes, tornadoes, alligators, pythons, poisonous spiders, poisonous snakes, everywhere except in Washington State. So I like to live here. I've been in Colombia where you really have to figure out where the sharks are. Portugal's is nice, but there's not a lot to see. It comes down to Thailand. Anybody who scuba dives should spend at least a few months in Thailand. There's different islands to dive. There's a Koh Tao, I probably said it wrong, that used to be a prison island, centuries ago. So some of the prison is underwater and you can actually dive there. There's nothing trying to unalive you. The only sharks they have are whale sharks, which is like a big cow, like 20, 30-foot cow. And the water and the air are so close in temperature, you can almost not tell when you're getting in or out. You don't need a full wetsuit. You don't need a dry suit. For me, it's hands down Thailand and why I go back there in the winter.
Dion, thank you so much for coming on the show here today. Where can folks go to get a hold of you?
So I'm on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom. I'm known for two things. So every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, I do a live stream that lasts as long as the questions do. And I'll answer every question, even the rude ones. I'm known for the binder strategy, which is a strategy where my tenants ask me to raise the rent. That's actually what got me invited to Bigger Pockets. And I'm known for being the lazy investor. I don't do anything creative. This is very easy to repeat. I was a single parent with 3 kids working full time. And the way I manage my portfolio, I don't have a property manager, takes me less than 2 hours a month. So what I do is I share how I got the portfolio and how I made my system streamlined to where I can live the life I want and self-manage my properties.
Dion, thank you so much for coming on the show today, for talking to us about your journey as an investor and a little bit about scuba here today too. Thank you, Dion, for being on the show.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.